Hey guys, Drifter here. This health update is going to be mostly good news because things are turning around for me and I'm finally starting to feel better these days. But progress is still slow and I'm going to be limited for quite some time, hence the accepting things I cannot change title of this video, which we'll loop back around to. But in order, I'm going to give a quick summary of how we got here, how things are going well for me, and then a little bit of the bad stuff and plans for the future. So how did we get here? I have had a mild Babesia and Bartonella infection for a very long time, and at some point that escalated from mild to moderate and then rapidly to severe. Babesia and Bartonella are tick-borne illnesses. They give symptoms and issues very similar to Lyme disease. They're both extremely rare to the point where I was the only person in the state of Texas diagnosed with Babesia last year, so odds about 1 in 35 million. Like Lyme disease, this screwed up my joints really badly and basically gave me an unusual form of arthritis. It also caused malabsorption in my stomach. Some of you may have heard of the Lone Star tick here in Texas, which can make you effectively allergic to meat. Any kind of meat you eat, you can't keep it down after this tick bites you. I didn't get that, but malabsorption problems are typical of Lyme diseases, and I got malabsorption of vitamin B1. If you're deficient in vitamin B1, your nervous system shuts down and you get an also extremely rare disorder called beri. In my case, it manifested as my peripheral nervous system, my hands and feet, demyelinizing, and the myelin sheath is what protects the nervous system, so essentially it was disintegrating. During this time of other problems, I also hurt my spine, broke it more specifically, like the actual bones snapped and slipped a disc. And that kind of injury is really bad in general, but with all these other illnesses on top, I never really got to do a proper recovery and physical therapy. So I've been laid up for, it was really 3 years, and this happened almost 4 years ago, so about 3 or 4 years now. And okay, sob story aside, we're done with that. Let's get to the good news. Basically, the good news is that all of the treatments are working. It took me forever to figure out what these weird diseases are, but now that I know, the treatments are going great. The surgery that I got during Black Ops 6 launch week was extremely successful. It sucks that I had to skip out on the launch week of the game, but it was absolutely worth it. I got a lipoma removed that had formed in response to the trauma around my spine. It turned out to be much bigger than anticipated, and it seemed to have been pretty continually pressing on a nerve. My back pain went down instantly after surgery, as in I am just waking up 5 minutes sobering from the sedation and I can instantly tell that it has helped. I felt better laying on the hospital bed with the suture still bleeding than I did with that thing in me, and it was such a quick thing, they didn't even give me anesthetic. Recovery was relatively quick. I started going out more and being on my feet more in like 2 days after surgery. It's almost fully healed now. The incision spot is still sore a little bit, it's still got a scar, whatever, but the overall improvement to my mobility is excellent. I can now exercise more, stretch more, sit for longer, lay on my side longer, which I couldn't lay on my side at all until recently, and generally be out for longer periods of time. It's now okay for me to be out of the house for 2 or 3 hours at a time, or up to 5 if I get the opportunity to lay down and rest and reset a little bit. And I know that doesn't sound great, like, oh, Drifter, you can go out for 2 hours, ooh, you know, but that beats the ever-living hell out of being stuck in bed. The other treatment that went really well is this past summer's treatment for infectious diseases. The Babesia and Bartonella, the Lyme-like diseases, seems to have been very successful. I'm not really showing any signs or symptoms of either, and I haven't for 6 months. And if the treatment fails, like it did the first time I did this, you typically see symptoms again in 3 to 4 months. So I'm 6 months out, and I feel like I've kind of gotten over the biggest hurdle here. I do have to keep in mind that this can come back at any point in my life, so I need to mentally sort of be aware of symptoms and act quickly if something goes awry. But as far as we can tell, body seems pretty happy and infections seem pretty dead. My body's metabolism is pretty normal. Hormone balance is really good too. The only medications I take is I take a daily minimum dose of clomiphene citrate. I think it's 25 milligrams. It helps me boost testosterone because endocrine system got trashed. And I take a daily multivitamin. So I get a little bit of B1, a little bit of vitamin balance. Very minimal medicine intake. I'm retaining warmth better. My internal body heat's working better, making some pretty huge improvements on my sleep and REM time. So overall, things are looking up for me. I'm primarily focused on exercise right now in order to regain as much mobility and endurance as possible, and we're going to talk about that later, but there's some bad things to discuss too, which leads us to the title of the video, The Things I Cannot Change. After almost 4 years of battling various complex and rare diseases, there is some permanent or at least very long-lasting damage to my body. I wish that wasn't the case. I'm a little bit of a rise and grind, get that bread, go-getter. I don't like being limited, but I have to live in the real world where I know that some of this damage might be permanent. The tick-borne illnesses truly did a number on my joints. Even after the infection cleared, the joints didn't really fully return to normal. It's still very easy to sprain from stretching or using excessive force on my hands or feet. They don't have a lot of endurance. Recovery time is still slower than normal, but it's not outrageously so. And unfortunately, it affects almost every single joint in my body to some degree, but it got my hands and feet by far the worst. So basically, I have like 75-year-old man hands, but without the granddad strength. This means that I have to do a lot of normal things slower, can't use much force. Some things are fully forbidden, like snapping fingers. I can sprain joints doing that if I'm not too careful. And there is a little bit of residual nerve damage on top of the joint damage. The remaining nerve damage is very mild, in my opinion. Then again, almost anything's going to seem mild compared to full-blown beri, where you feel like you're on fire 24/7 and can't even sleep. But very manageable, very minimal. The one thing that's not mild, the one thing that I'm really having a hard time accepting is my spine. I got a pars defect, which means the little joints that lock your spine into place broke. They cannot be mended. They're so small they disintegrate in your body. So my spine slipped forward, pinched a nerve, the sciatic nerve. It causes a lot of pain. And the disc that desperately tries to support my now broken spine while it wobbles around is basically on life support. I've ruptured or slipped it several times. The problem here is that I got really weak from these other sicknesses and then hurt my spine. So instead of being able to do a normal physical therapy and a normal recovery and a normal amount of healing, my body almost couldn't heal anything for several years, and physical therapy did nothing because I couldn't gain any muscles. This poor recovery meant that the actual physical damage itself didn't recover properly, and it resulted in a lot of atrophy for my supporting muscles. And tremendous increase to tightness as well, so it's difficult to stretch. It's actually the exact same problem that drove Luigi Mangione to murder the CEO of United Healthcare. So my spine is fucked. It is absolutely 110% fucked, and it will be a lifetime achievement to unfuck this spine. That's why I'm still going to be gaming and streaming from the bed for the foreseeable future. The bed rig is a blessing from God himself that lets me play and enjoy games. I would prefer to be here in the chair, but I can't stay here for that long. And the thing about the spine that's more annoying than anything is that I basically have to accept that I'm handicapped now. I have joined the ranks of disabled Americans, and I have to find a new way to live my life, make a new life for myself that accommodates for my mobility and restrictions. And that's kind of a big L, at least emotionally. I know that the joke is that Drifter is soft and breathable and he never sees sunlight and he should just lift weights and whatever, but the reality is that most of my life has been exercise heavy, outgoing. I was the all-day energy kind of guy. I would grind games, grind videos, grind work, other side projects, filming all sorts of wild stuff. I was go, 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 go. So I've been forced to step back to minimal activity for a number of years now, and that's been very hard on me. It's also extremely hard to accept the fact that this problem will continue for years to come, but that doesn't mean that I'm giving up. Doctors tell me that with time and patience and separation from these diseases that are now cleared, that I can build muscles, I can regain mobility, I can get a stronger back and stronger hands. I just have to kind of work for it. So what the future looks like for me is that there will be a huge focus on exercise and general positive lifestyle changes. I'm finally in a position where I can do, I think, a reasonable amount of exercises, and my body actually does build muscle now, which it didn't for a number of years. I've always been a strong believer in exercise helping most injuries, and especially muscle building to help compensate for more mechanical injuries. So the most important part of my upcoming year is dedicating the time to be consistent and to consistently and effectively exercise so that I can build up these strengths. It's going to be a long and stupid process because so many things in my body are up. So, for example, I know that I need to do planks in order to build core strength because that allows me to hold my body better and be upright and rest more and stuff like that. I have a hard time with planks, not only because my core is weak, as it should be, but also because the joints in my feet, like my toes and my heel and my ankle, don't bear weight very well. It's very easy to sprain or injure them. So it's both painful and difficult for me to balance a plank properly. And I can't do modified planks because knee planks and some of the other modifications actually cause the spine to slip out of place more. Or another example of this could be I need to do bench press to develop good like pectoral and chest muscles to help balance out my body and also work out my shoulders to bear weight better too. Unfortunately, just bearing the weight is challenging on my hands, and doctors have told me not to lift anything above 15 or 20 pounds over your head for maybe forever, so it's very difficult to grab weights and do overhead press or flies and things like that. Or if I want to do bench press, the mobility limits me from even getting into the bench press. So basically, it's a complex problem where everything is fucked up every step of the way. I'm planning to fix it one step at a time, just kind of hammer these out. Like, I need to put an order in place. I feel like it's almost like managing economy. Like, you build the farm, and then you build the stone mine, and then you get the church going, and then you build a society. I'm comparing it to video games when I shouldn't. It's not going to be an easy or fun process, but I'll have to do things like I'll have to work on my feet so that they're strong enough to support my planks, and then if I get strong enough with planks, then my back should support more weight so I can work on my shoulders and arms, kind of a process like that. And it's not going to be easy, it's not going to be fun. There's a decent chance I might live stream it. I've set up my whole house for NDI streaming in its own like wild intranet thing. Every single room has Ethernet ports that connect to like a central server, which is awesome. I'm tempted to do like 1 day a week physical therapy streams on YouTube, as pathetic as they may be, and just see how that shakes out. But I'm going to work this process. I'm not giving up. There's things to be done here. So this leads me to my final topic, which is a little bit more about my personal and content. Even more so this year than last year, I'm going to have to do a lot of experimenting to find new ways to live and make money. I need to find new hobbies that better accommodate for my limitations. Weirdly, the gun range has been very good for me because time-wise, it's very manageable, it's very close, it's an extremely controlled environment, I can leave when I want. It's fucking awful on my hands. For a guy with bad hands, it is goddamn awful. That's the L I have to take to go to the gun range. I make those videos like shooting the real life MP7 and stuff, which you can find on the channel. While I can still game, you guys see me streaming and gaming all the time, and I'm gonna be gaming in the future, I've come to accept that it is unlikely that I will ever be able to return to sort of a full-time gaming streaming status where I can sit here for like 6 hours and grind out ranked Marvel Rivals or something like that. The full-time gaming thing probably isn't coming back. If it is, it's going to be coming back years from now after an outrageous amount of physical therapy. So there's probably going to be a lot more experimental content this year. And I know you guys hate to hear that. I know the vast majority of the audience, I have like 1,000 people tell me every day that they don't like my new content. They just want me to play Call of Duty. Just play Call of Duty. Just do in-depth again. Do that thing again. But I don't think that's a realistic goal. My body's not going to hold up for that pretty much at all. I can't put the time in. So I have to adjust my goals. I have to seek new things. And I'm just going to, I guess you guys are going to see me go on a journey to try to find this new thing, or perhaps several new things. If I'm lucky, I might be able to discover a new niche or content style or new sort of thing to do, a new identity on YouTube. So no matter what kind of sob story I throw at you and all these bad things we've talked about, I want to let you know life goes on. You gotta roll with the punches. I'm not giving up. Things are not easy. They're quite hard. But through an outrageous amount of effort, we have turned the tide. Instead of things getting worse every day, not only did we stop that, but we've actually started to make things get better every day. It's really slow. It's really, really slow. But we've reversed the trend. So that's fantastic. I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep working. I'm going to keep adapting my life to meet my current needs. I'm going to be improvising content to find a new way to survive in the social media ecosystem. And the plan is to overcome a lot of these problems. It's just going to be a long and painful journey, and you're probably going to hear a lot of bitching from me about it. But I hope that you stick with me through it all the way. And I hope that any of this new stuff that I try this year, I'm going to do gaming, so don't have a heart attack about that. But I hope that something new catches on, something interesting, something fun, something more manageable for me, but we shall see. Guys, that is all for this video. That's all for this health update. I think it's more positive than normal. I laid out the positives real quick and then some of the negatives we had to talk about, but just keep in mind, things have turned around for me. I'm praying to God and everything holy in the entire universe that trend stays. Even if it's a slow trend uphill, that's totally fine by me. All right, guys, that's all for this video. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.